All right, guys. So today we are looking at domain and range. Okay. Now, this handout that you see here, guys, is supposed to be a foldout. So for those of you taking it notes, I don't really give the notes like a foldout. And there's actually two sets of the same thing when you look at those problems there. And it's really just kind of a way to talk about it and go through it and things like that. Okay, so we're going to start by just getting some of these definitions, making sure we're good to go, and all of that jazz. Okay, so the domain. Here's the domain. Okay, the domain is all. Oh, hold on. Let me get my pencil. The domain is all values that go into a function. Okay, all values that go into a function. And then I'm going to be a little bit more specific, okay? And basically the domain is really just our x values, okay? So the domain is all the values that go into a function, all right, which are your x values. All right, so that's your domain. All right, so it's all the values that go into a function, but how we're going to refer to them is when I say domain, I'm going to tell you to think the x values, okay? Now, similar to that, you have the range. These are all values that come out of a function. Now, we learned last week when we looked at plotting points and stuff that you're going to have x values, and then what do you think the range is going to be? Y values. Okay, so they kind of go hand in hand. All right, and you'll see kind of as we go more along the functions route how each of those is represented and what they are. Okay. All right. Everybody get that down. All right. We're going to go on to the next page. So this is really going to be the end of our notes. If you were looking at this online at the PDF or on the ones I printed for y'all, there's an extra sheet there that you don't really need. It's the exact same values. Now, before we get there, I'm going to talk about how you find the domain and range when you're given different things, okay? So the first things we're going to look at are when you are given ordered pairs / a table of values. Okay? We're going to talk about how you find the domain and range when you are given those. Okay? Now, I like to abbreviate domain and range a lot of times. I'll use a D for domain and I'll use an R for range. Okay? Now, when you are asked to find the domain and they give you a set of ordered pairs or a table of values, okay, you just simply want to list the x values, okay? That is how you are given, or that is how you discover the domain, okay? When you are asked to find the range, okay, you are going to just list the y values, okay? Now, the other way that you are going to be asked to find the domain and range is if you are given a graph. That'll be the third way that you're asked to find. Okay? To find the domain, you just have to list all shown x values. Okay? So what that means is if you're given a graph, it's just about finding those x values, okay? And then if you were given a y, to find the range, you want to go from the, it really kind of depends. For the range, it's just all the shown y values. But when you list the range, you always want to go from lowest to highest. Okay? And I'll talk to you kind of what I mean about that in a second, but it's all shown y values. All right. Are there any questions on that stuff so far? You should hopefully be getting kind of the idea behind this whole thing. The domain is always your x values. The range is always your y values, right? Have y'all heard this before? Okay, perfect. All right, now, just a little bit of stuff to get in here. Okay, the set of all numbers is the function. Okay? The set of all numbers is the function. All right? Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to come down here and we're going to look and list out the domain and range of one example of each type. Ordered pairs, table of values, and then I'm going to give you some points on a graph so that we can look at it. Y'all with me? All right, so let's start down here under this ordered pairs section. So notice here, and I'm going to highlight some things for you. Do you see how you have these brackets at the front and at the back? Okay? Do y'all see that there? That is giving you the overall set. Okay, that's what we call a set. Because this set includes these three numbers, okay, or these 3 points. And what they're asking us is to give the domain and the range of these 3 points. All right, well, here's how easy it is. This is a set of ordered pairs. So if I wanted to give the domain, I'm going to list the points when they're just a few points like this. Are y'all with me? So I'd look at here, and to list the domain, I've got to come up with all of the x values. Now, when you list them, I don't necessarily care, but generally you want to put them in order from least to greatest. Okay, so the smallest to the biggest. You don't have to do that. It's something that you typically see. Again, it's not the only way to do it. When I was actually taught to do this, I listed the points exactly as they were shown up. So sometimes I revert back to that instead of going in number order. Okay? But when I look at this, now, do you see this out in front? I want to talk about this, where the lightsaber is, the pointer. That is a fancy bracket, okay? It's one of those just super fancy brackets. Mine kind of looks like a 3 just because I'm not good at drawing them. All right, I'll be honest with you. But here's all you've got to do. You just got to list those numbers. So the numbers that show up in your domain are your x values. So it's the number 4, the number 1, and the number -5. And then I close those brackets with the same thing. Boo, you don't like it? Yeah, my brackets aren't very good. All right, now, that goes with it, it is the exact same thing when you find the range. Okay, you got to go through here and find the y values. So it would be 7, 1, -11. Now, it doesn't happen here, but it might happen later. If a number shows up twice, so like in your domain, if you had the same x value, you can write it twice or you can just leave it once. Okay, it doesn't matter, however you feel like doing it. What I'm going to do now is give y'all about 30 seconds to try this next one down here on your own, okay? So try these with the green brackets, the one below them. Ready, set, go. All right, so seeing y'all with this second set right here, all right, what you should have gotten here for your domain, and we already had somebody in here listed out. Your domain would be 4, -2, and 7. Okay, those are all the x values. And then your range would be 6, 0, and 9. Okay? All right. So moving on, tables of value is very similar. Tables of value are actually a little bit easier because as you look at the table of values, you can see that it's already split up in x's and y's. The things you just got to remember is that your x's are your domain and your range is your y. So looking here, your domain would be 4, 0, and -2. And what would your range be? 12, 0, -6. Okay, perfect. All right, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to try the one below. Ready, set, boom. All right, so I heard some of y'all talking about it. We were good there. Okay, remember this one is nice and sweet because you just get to list it out. Now, this one is going to get to show you something on your range that I'll show you here in a second. But your domain, okay, here is 1, 0, -1. However, check out your range, okay? So I'm going to actually show you both ways you could list it. The range here was 404, okay? Well, what number shows up twice? 4. So you could just list it as 40, or you could do what we've been doing and just list out each number. Both of them are correct, but I just want to show you this in case it's multiple choice so that you know how it might look. Okay? All right, now, when we look at graphing, okay, I'm going to show you two different ones, okay? If you get a graph that looks something like this, okay, where there are just random dots all over the place, okay? This is the type where you would have to go in there, find the coordinates of each point, list them out, and then collect all that information and write it out. Okay, I'm not going to do that right now. But is everybody hearing what I'm saying? Yeah. So it'd be like, hey, this point is -3, 0. And then you'd have to do this point. Well, that's -1, -1. This is 0, 0. This is 1, 1. This is 2, 2. This is 3, 0. If you had something like this, you would have to list out every point and its coordinates, put all the X's in your domain, put all the range or the Y's in your range. Is everybody with me? That's the easy one, okay? Now, where this could get harder, and again, I made this up, so you would have to see it. What if it was connected? If it's connected, it's a little bit different. Because it is a connected line, it is not just those individual points. All right, are y'all with me? When it is given to you like this, you would actually have to go through and give an inequality of how this works, okay? So you would have to start by looking at your X values. What is the smallest X value here? Well, the smallest X value would be right through here, which is -3. The biggest X value would be right through here, which is +3. So when you would go to list your domain for this, you would actually list it as an inequality. All right? And I'm going to show you the pattern. That means you need to pay attention to this. The pattern will always be a number is less than or equal to X, which is less than or equal to another number. What numbers do you think are going to go here and here? Your smallest and your biggest. So the smallest X value here is -3. The biggest X value here is +3. Are y'all okay with this? All right. Now, similar to that, you would have to do the same thing with your range, but you've got to find your smallest and your biggest. How I'm finding the smallest and the biggest is I just look for the highest point or the lowest point. Well, the lowest point here would be -1. The highest point here would be +2. And guess what? Your range is going to take the same thing. Except instead of using an X in the middle, what do you think it's going to use? A Y. You are 100% correct. And it's the same idea here. Your range is -1. Okay, for the smallest part, your highest part is +2. Okay. All right, now, what's going to happen is I've got about 25 practice problems for you to work on, okay? Some of them are going to ask more stuff. So what it's going to do is it's going to ask you for the domain and the range, just a bunch of different ways. But then it's also going to ask you some that's going to have the letter F for a function. And you're going to have to say yes or no. I want you to skip the part for a function. We're going to start by doing that tomorrow to get started. Is everybody with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to pass out this homework, get you started on it. Ready, set, go.